Ann Cornick from Paint and Porcelain Exchange. I'm here to teach beginners how to get started in China painting, and for those of you that are looking for projects and you've been painting for a while, I hope to have some of those for you as well. Today, we're going to be working on our yellow roses. Roses aren't for everyone, so if you're a new painter and you have never painted roses before and you're doing it for your very first piece, then you need to do it on a flat piece. Now this is fairly flat. This is what I'm going to be working on. It's a little square box. You could work on a tile, you could work on a plate, but for your first piece with roses on it, I would recommend something flat. If you try to do something too ornate or something with too much of a curve, it'll throw you a curve and you'll be having a lot of difficulty putting together the rose. Now this is what I originally did just to see what I wanted to do. And this is my original box. Isn't that a pretty box? I had this box for a long time and I wanted to put something on it, and obviously it was begging for roses. So I did the yellow roses. This is very pale for me. There's not a lot of depth to it, and the reason for that is I wanted to make it a little more romantic. There are a lot of people that like a lighter form of painting where you don't always have all the depth and all the darkness. And so since I tend to paint fairly bright colors and dark colors, I thought I would do this very pale. So it's a Meissen brown that I used on the edges. And you can hunt around for a pretty brown that you like. The Meissen brown, see this here, the center of the flowers are done with chestnut. And I was going to do chestnut all the way around, but I like the oranginess of it, but I don't want it in large quantities. This is not a rich brown, not a hair brown. Those have, to me, too much darkness to them. The hair brown to me always looks flat. It doesn't look like a color really. The Meissen brown, the more coats you put on, the warmer it becomes, and it's really a pretty brown. So if you have it, great. If you don't, I think I held it up long enough that you could probably find something in your paints that is close. Colors for today. I'm using the colors that we talked about for 2025. And the reason I'm doing that is because my girlfriend, I think I said this before, but my girlfriend was at one of my shows and bought something, and she doesn't usually buy something for herself. And I said, why is it that this is the first thing you've ever bought for yourself? And she said, well, you don't paint in my colors. And the colors we're using today, I think, are along the lines of the colors that she likes. They aren't colors I care for. I'm not much into the browns, and I don't like reds, and so I don't tend to paint with those, but it's time. So, okay, so I'm using Primrose. Now, see what color it is? You could probably use mixing yellow or Albert yellow and get away with it just as well. My preference would be mixing yellow. I did a tile. You can do test tiles like this from time to time. And this is the mixing yellow kind of by itself on the side, and this is the Albert. Yeah, that's the Albert. Albert fires out a lot, so I kind of like the mixing yellow, and that's what I would use if you don't have Primrose. But you want a pretty light and bright color. Chestnut, which if you don't have that, you can use pecan or yellow brown. Like a dark yellow brown would be better, the yellow brown #2. I also have mistletoe. A mistletoe is a taupey green. That's kind of what it is. This is warm brown green. That's pretty common with people. And like I said, this is Meissen brown, M-E-I-S-S-E-N brown. I'm nuts about it. I've been using it when I want to put brown on for shadow. Shading brown would also work if you have it. I think it's a color that they use for portraits, but that would work too. So you're just looking for this warm chocolatey brown. Even a chocolate brown might work if you have that. Okay. Brushes for today, I'm going to be using probably 3, maybe more, but these 3 for sure. This is my go-to. It's my 1/4 inch Scharf, S-C-H-A-R-F brush. I love it because I see how thin it is? It's very thin. So it doesn't really fight me when I'm putting the color on. It puts the color on with very sharp edges. That's what I like about it. Probably going to use a pointer. This is a #2 pointer. And then I'm going to use a super fine brush for the little stems and things like that initially. Okay, let's put you down and we'll get started. You can use this rose. You see how they look very similar when I draw them? That's because it's a formula rose. You set up the rose the same way every time. And then if you want to, and let's come down just a little, I think. I'm loading my brush. I'm going to use my 1/4 inch. I'm going to load it full load. And by full load, I mean you go into your paints and you pull it down like this so that the whole brush is covered, okay? Of Primrose and a side load of Chestnut. That's doing C's into the paint to get the side load. And I start with the center. I'm going to start with the center on this one first. And I just paint it in. You see what I'm doing? Okay. Reload my brush. Another problem that a lot of people have is that they don't put enough paint on their brush. Now, so I do the center. The next thing I do, and that's the reason you'll see the lines on here, they're on there for a reason. The next thing I do is it's called the bowl, I guess. I don't know. Let's call it the bowl. I do the bowl. Now, if your light's coming across, you want to make this side a little darker than the other side. So you're going to just pull it across like that. And leave kind of a highlight in the middle if you can. Okay? So that's the second thing I do. And if you want a little highlight, you can wipe out one right there. And you have it. Boom. Okay. Now, the next thing I do is I turn it around. I do the side load of Chestnut, and I start gently doing the tops up here. And I'm going to pull this part out. So let's get it. I want it a little deeper than that. Hang on, I'm going to make it a little deeper. There we go, a little deeper. And I'm just going to start pulling that up to that point and letting it fade out in between. Go back on your brush so that you're making this as soft as possible, okay? You might want to let it set up a little. If your paint is a little bit too soupy, let's say, you're going to lose a little of it if you pull it up. So you want to make sure that you maybe let it set up a little before you do that. Going to clean my brush. Going to go back and full load with Primrose, side load with Chestnut, and I'm going to start here. I want the depth down at the base there, so I'm putting, see the little chestnut there? I'm putting the chestnut down there and letting the yellow go up to the top. This is a formula rose. I'm going to do a little bit here, same way. Oops, need a little more chestnut. You want that depth. Now, don't try to get a dark, dark, dark on this line. This is fine what I've done. And you can pull it out a little if you want. Because this is the first fire. And first fires are not supposed to be that dark. So if you get it a little bit dark, great. If you don't, that's fine. You can play with it a little bit. This is going to be the light side. So we're not going to put as much color on that side, dark color on that side as we are here. Now here, in order to put the dark color in, you do this motion. You come towards that side like that. See that? Okay, and you can do the same thing on this side a little bit if you want. Okay. Now you're going to go back because you may have lines. Clean your brush. Make sure you have oil on it, though. Put just a little bit of yellow on it and just go through and kind of soften those edges. You can pull the color out and soften those edges. And the reason we're doing this is so that we know where the color ends, because when we fire this, if you don't put color on the edges, you're not going to have color there. It's going to all fire off and you're going to go, oh, where did I have that? Now I have a pointed Q-tip and you can use that. And you can just go in, but I don't really like the pointed Q-tip. I prefer to use my Paintnporcelain, and I like to go in and just do this. You're making kind of what would be the petals. So here I'm going to separate that petal. I'm going to bring this petal up here. I'm going to bring this petal up here. Okay, and then I'm going to do the front of it a little bit. Now, if you want, you can do this, and that comes across the front, and you can just fix up the other side. Then you can take your brush, clean it really well with turpentine, use the edge of your brush, and just come across there, pull it down a little, and that'll give you a real nice edge, okay? So that's how you do the rose itself. Now, I know most people start with the stuff behind it. I don't know why I paint this way, but I do. So now I'm going to go do the things behind it. The roses, the petals are simple. You load with your lightest color, which for me is mistletoe, a full load. Then you side load with the next darkest color, which is warm brown green. And you're going to, let me show you. You're going to use that funny little stroke that brings you down like this to the middle. Then start and give yourself like a, almost like a vein there. Flip it around and just do the edge. That's it. How simple is that? We're going to do the same thing here. Now, this one is under that one. So when I do this, I'm going to pull the dark a little closer to the, under here, a little closer, but be careful. Try not to get any lumps or bumps. What you don't want there is you don't want globs of paint, because if you get a glob and you don't catch it, when you fire it, it's going to turn out really dark. So always look at your stuff from the side. Pick it up, look at it across the top of it, and you'll be able to see where your blobs are. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing here. I want that to be a little darker. Remember, when you paint, and I learned this tip in Canada from one of the teachers, and you go in and you pull down and wiggle a little, it'll be a little darker. Watch this. Yep. Okay, there we go. See how much darker? Then kind of do your middle, and then pull it around this way and do your edge. And look across it, make sure that it's not too gloppy. Okay, there we go. I want a little more depth on the edge. There's one other thing that I will do on this. You can see here, the green paint got up on top of that. I'll wipe it out with my Paintnporcelain, and then I'll just go back and touch it up lightly. You can also pull back a little here if you want a little more light, but you don't have to do much on this. This is pretty good, okay? Let's keep doing leaves while the leaves are good. So I'm going to take my mistletoe. I'm going to do my full load of mistletoe, my side load of warm brown green. I'm not doing background this time, so I can go up and do these leaves. A little oily there. Let me get the oil off. There we go. And then pull up this way. Now, if I were to do the mistletoe just by itself, so you can see what color it is, because it's kind of an odd color. Let me do the one on top with just mistletoe. It's very much like a light antique green. And then here I want a little more depth, so I'm going to add the warm brown green. There we go. Now, if you want to put a line down the middle, you can. You can just tap it like that. Or you can wait until the next time and do it with a liner so you can see what you're doing if you trace them in. Now see here I didn't trace them in, but over here I did, and so it's harder to see them. If you use a small brush, you can just put a little line on that. There's a couple of ways you can do this. You could do this. Do you see that? And this. Pull a couple off. Or you could take your Paintnporcelain and just do this. Oops, this. And then just tap it with your thumb so that you don't have any ridges. You have to be really careful with the Paintnporcelain because it will leave ridges. So up here where I used it, I'm just going to tap a little to take off those ridges that might still fire through. Okay. I just used my little finger for that. Okay, doing more of the green. Now you can just work with the green this time if you're leaving white. So see on here, I'm leaving a little white, although I want that to be darker because it's closer to the rose. There we go. But if you're leaving a little white, you can use just the mistletoe, your lightest green, and then come back. And next time, these colors are a little odd because they're the new colors for this year. Now this one I'm just going to go across. There we go. I'm going to speed it up now because we don't need to be quite so pedestrian about it. And fix this there. Okay. Always clean your brush more than you think you need to, because I'll tell you, the color will be so much better. If you leave it on thinking, oh, I can just keep painting, I can just keep painting, the color will not be as crisp or as clean as you want it to be. And that's really, 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 really important. Okay, there's a little guy hidden here. So actually, yeah, I think it is leaf. I'm going to make it green. We'll see. There we go. Hope I'm not making you dizzy going around like this, but it's just easier for me. Okay, now let's do a rose. We're going to do this guy up here. Cleaning my brush really well. Going into the primrose full load, side load of chestnut. And we're going to do a big... just because you have that little V there, you don't have to stick to it, people. You can make a bigger area there. I'm going to wipe off under here. I think I got a little too thick. Okay, and then I'm going to redo it here, and we're going to do the bottom part. Now, this one's a little shallower, so I'm only going to just maybe pull the color across. There we go. And put a little more depth right here. Flip it up. And I'm going to start pulling that color up gently, gently. Okay, then I'm going to side load with primrose and do the very edges here. Full load of primrose, side load of chestnut, and I'm going to do this side here. That's that funny circular kind of motion. That's going to get that depth where you want it. Same thing here. Need a little more depth. Same thing here. And then over on this side, we're going to do the same thing. You're pulling it towards the center. Then you're just going to fan it out a little bit. Smooth out what you did. Make sure your edges have a little bit of color on them. If they don't, go back like here and just add a little yellow so that when it fires, you'll know where you ended. I'm going to add, now see, that's given the center section a chance to set up. So I'm going to add a little more of the chestnut. My brush is separating, it needs oil or cleaning or both. I'm going to clean it. And then I'm just going to go in and... Now, the roses open like this from the center. So if you do like a half, like a little C-stroke, or you can even do just a line, it tends to help. And here I'm going to come there, and there I'm going to go there. And here I'm going to come here. And here I'm going to come here. Make sure it's off the leaves. There we go. And what do I want to do in the front? Well, this one I did that on, so let's do one of these that goes up like that and comes across. Will I remember next time? Maybe. You might want to put a little depth underneath it to help, like with this one here, I could... make it a little darker. And here, I can go under this side. Always paint towards yourself. That's why I'm turning this thing a million times. Okay, can you see that there? I think it's a little clearer. Okay, and if you want it to curl over a little, put some turpentine on your brush, clean your brush really well, and then just give it a little push. And then curl it over a little more. I don't know what that's supposed to be there, so we'll leave it right now. I'll fire it, and then we'll come back to it and see what we need to do the next time. Sometimes that's a perfect place to add your, that's a little too, there we go. That's a good place to add maybe a leaf or something, but you don't want to do too much. I'm whipping out these, I hope you can see, I'm whipping out these little guys here. Okay, now we're going to come up near the top, and we're going to do these guys. Right now, I'm just using a side load of warm brown green because it seems to be working really well for me. You can do that too, and you can do them in production order once you get so you can do them. Do all the bases first and then just flip them around and do the tops. That's fine too. Go to the center. Now here I want it a little bit darker against the rose because that way the rose will show up better. And the sun's coming from the top down now on these leaves that I have here. Oh. So I'm going to change over now to Mason. I mean, not Mason. I'm going to change over to mistletoe. And I'm just going to do the very edges. Mistletoe is actually just kind of a lighter version of warm brown green, I think. There we go. And just do the edges. Now, let's say you want a little bit of color on the edges. You could take a little bit of that chestnut and put it on the edges like this. I kind of like that. There we go. I'll do a little over here too. Ooh, pretty. And that will change the color a little bit, give you a little variety, and that's always a good thing. Now, when you do the production line like this, you have to go back and forth and make sure that you've gotten all your ends. There we go. Then these little guys up here, I am just going to use the side of my brush with a little mistletoe and just make them solid. They don't have to be anything fancy. And the base here and the base there. And then I'm going to go into my primrose with the side load and just make those buds yellow right now. Oh, you almost can't see them. So I'm going to add a little bit of the other on one's, oh, wrong side here. That's better. Okay. Alrighty. So now we still, oh, you know what? That's supposed to be another petal, I can tell. So let me fix this. Because roses are not easy. I'm just going to put another layer down here. And then put a little yellow on the edge. I'm not going to go quite as far as that one did. I'm only going to about, where's my pen? I'll show you where I'm going to about. I'm only going to about here. I think what happened was I forgot to cut it off there. And to make sure I didn't go any further, because the yellow is kind of hard to see, I will use this and just, there we go. There's a little color there. Okay. All right, our last rose. You're going to dip full load of primrose, side load of chestnut, start with the center. And on this one, I think I'm going to bring the center kind of, a little dark. Bring the center kind of here. You're just tapping. And tap in an irregular, see how much prettier that is in an irregular pattern? I think it's much prettier in an irregular pattern. And then just sort of gently pull it up. And I mean gently. Because if you like what you did, don't wreck it. I'm going to get some yellow on my brush and I'm going to go around the edges here. There we go. Do some blending that way. Okay. And then I'm going to do full load of primrose, side load of the chestnut, and I'm just going to do this, like this. And now the sun is coming this way, so this is the side that's not going to have much light on it. It's going to have light on it. So there, I want to make sure I've got that a little lighter. I should have probably put a little X up here, because as you're turning your plate, it gets difficult. Sometimes you need to use a little thicker wipeout tool, and the other side of this one is this, and it's really good. Okay. And it'll click. Eventually it will click. I learned this formula rose from Gladys Galloway here in Michigan. Gladys was a formula rose painter. She was. Let me show you some of the other things that she did. She did the same rose over and over again, and all she did was change where she put the leaves. And that, when she showed me, it made so much sense that all of a sudden I went, I can do that. So you're doing the inner bowl here. You're doing the lower bowl. And then everybody said, pretend there's an X down there and that's the middle. But what I do is I just pull my color where I want it. And here, it's the same thing. Pull. Oops. Make sure you get enough color on there. Oh, that's too much. Pull. And it's pulling this way. It's not painting across. It's not painting away. It's pulling right towards where you want the color to go. And you're using the tip of your brush. Watch this. Here, let me move it in a little. You're using this right there. And then I'll do it here too. Okay, and then here it should be a little darker there. It always amazes me that it's not, once you get the stroke down, once it clicks, you'll go, oh, I don't understand why I didn't do it before. So, and then you go and see, this is almost here, so this is going to go towards the middle. That one's underneath. This one's going to go towards the middle. That one, the other one's underneath. This one's on top. This one's on top. The one that's on top is the one that you're going to wipe out. This one's on top, so I'm going to wipe out the edge there. Okay? Then I want this to look a little bit like that. I do half circles. I have a little paint buildup there. I might just leave it like that. I might take this one and just like that. Okay. And then I'm going to go and I better not do that. I better do it this way. I'm going to bring it. As they get to the middle, they get smaller. Okay, so let me show you one more time. For those of you that have trouble here. Okay, I'm going to get a bigger brush too, because a bigger brush tends to be easier to see. Practice with a big brush, then work it down to a little brush. Maybe that's a problem too. Sometimes people try to work too small to begin with. I'm going to use chestnut and brown. Okay, and okay, here's my center, my bottom, and then I just do this. I do a little. Now I start going out and coming in, going out and coming in, out and coming in, out. I mean, this is really basic. And then there's always one down there. Okay. And these up in here are going to be like this, but I only do them with the pen. Okay. And when you're doing the sides here, you're doing it this way, this way, this way, this way. Do you see how that looks? This way, like this. You're pulling towards the center, towards the center, towards the center, towards the center. On all of them. If you start on this side's darker, if the sun's coming from this way, you'll automatically, but you lean so that you're painting with the edge. Look, see how I'm painting with the edge. And then here, you bring it down. Then you're going to take your lightest color, whatever the lighter color is, and just do the edges like this. Just tap them. They don't have to be anything fancy. Just tap the edges. You're painting with the edge of your brush. You're not painting with your whole brush. Then, if you want to soften this, you can. You can come and just feather, like very lightly. You can even feather sideways. If you feather sideways, the lines will go away. And the same thing with the middle. This, see, I'm using the same stroke. The down, 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 but I'm making it irregular. And then here I'm pulling. I'm doing a C stroke. Look at that obvious C stroke. And then you just keep that paint on that brush and just pull them all up like this. Mess them up a little, not much. I've got a little of the black line because it hasn't had a chance to dry. That's the only thing with this. Then you come in with your eraser and you define the edges. Here, you can bring it down. This is on top. This one's on top of that one. This one's on top of that one. This one's on top of that one. Those are the ones you pull off. And then up in here, see where I had those lines before? You can barely see them. Okay. Now, I know it's kind of a crude one, but at least it gives you an idea. And then you can always take and go back and clean off the edges using a little turpentine on your brush and just pulling it back. I finished this, and I'm going to take a picture of it because right now I see, looking at it, see right here, it's a little dark, and right here, it's a little heavy, so I'm going to have to pull it out. So take your camera out, take a picture of it, and then if you need to Go back in with a dry brush, one that has no oil on it at all, one that you haven't used at all. And you're going to go back in and just pull a little out. There we go. Got rid of that little. So use a dry brush and just pull. And a lot of times that will also help you soften up things that you haven't gotten just the way you want it. But take a picture of it before you put it in the kiln. First of all, so you know what it looks like, and so you know where all the lines are, because when you fire it, this is a lighter rose, and a lot of the lines are going to blend right into the background. But if you have a picture, you'll know what you did, and that will make a big difference. Okay, pick up those brushes and keep painting. See you next time. Bye-bye.